The world watched in awe as humanity entered the atomic age. This was a scientific marvel, the likes of which had never been seen before. Yet this awe was quickly replaced by a chilling realization. The atomic bomb, first detonated in the New Mexico desert, possessed unimaginable destructive power. The world grappled with the implications of this new technology, a power capable of reshaping the very landscape of our planet. The bomb dropped on Hiroshima, a city full of life and culture, unleashed a force equivalent to thousands of tons of TNT. The devastation was instantaneous and absolute, a stark reminder of the destructive capabilities that mankind now possessed. Buildings were reduced to rubble in the blink of an eye. The very air itself seemed to ignite, scorching everything in its path. Today, the arsenals of nuclear-armed nations dwarf the destructive power of that first atomic bomb. Modern nuclear weapons are hundreds, even thousands of times more potent than the device that leveled Hiroshima. A single detonation could instantly obliterate a major city, vaporizing buildings and people alike. The world lives with this terrifying knowledge, a constant reminder of the fragility of peace and the ever-present threat of annihilation. This is the legacy of the atomic age, a legacy we must grapple with if we are to secure a future free from the specter of nuclear war. The road to the atomic bomb was paved with scientific breakthroughs and driven by the necessities of war. What began as theoretical physics in laboratories soon transformed into a race against time. World War II raged, and the Allied nations feared that Germany was developing this devastating weapon. The Manhattan Project, a top-secret undertaking, brought together the brightest minds in physics. They worked tirelessly in hidden laboratories, racing to unlock the secrets of the atom. Their efforts culminated in the Trinity test, the first successful detonation of an atomic bomb. The success of the Manhattan Project ushered in a new era. The world was forever changed, and the balance of power shifted dramatically. The United States emerged from the war with a monopoly on nuclear weapons, but it was a short-lived advantage. The Soviet Union, driven by its own ambitions and anxieties, soon developed its own atomic bomb. This sparked an arms race, a perilous competition for nuclear superiority. The world watched with bated breath as the two superpowers amassed ever-growing arsenals of these devastating weapons. The Cold War was a period of immense tension and mistrust between the United States and the Soviet Union. Both nations possessed enough nuclear weapons to destroy each other many times over. This created a terrifying stalemate, a delicate balance of power aptly named mutually assured destruction mad. The doctrine of MAD argued that neither side would risk a first strike. The consequences of retaliation were simply too great. However, this balance of terror depended on rationality and restraint, qualities not always present in international relations. Throughout the Cold War, the world held its breath as crises erupted and tensions flared. The Cuban Missile Crisis, in particular, brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. The threat was real, the danger palpable. Despite the ever-present danger, both sides recognized the need for dialogue and arms control. Treaties were negotiated, limiting the testing and deployment of nuclear weapons. These agreements, though imperfect, provided a framework for managing the nuclear threat. The Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, NPT, has been a cornerstone of global efforts to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons. Enacted in 1970, the NPT aims to limit the possession of nuclear weapons to the 5 recognized nuclear weapon states: the United States, Russia, the United Kingdom, France, and China. The NPT has been largely successful in preventing the widespread proliferation of nuclear weapons. However, it faces ongoing challenges, including regional tensions, technological advancements, and the ambitions of non-signatory states. The new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, New START, is another crucial agreement between the United States and Russia, the world's 2 largest nuclear powers. New START limits the number of deployed strategic nuclear warheads and delivery systems that each country can possess. These treaties, along with other international agreements, play a vital role in reducing the global nuclear threat. They provide a framework for dialogue, transparency, and cooperation, fostering an environment where diplomacy can hopefully prevail. Section 5. The unthinkable aftermath. A world in ruins. The detonation of a nuclear weapon, even on a limited scale, would have catastrophic and long-lasting consequences. The immediate effects of a nuclear explosion are well documented. A blinding flash of light, a searing heat wave, and a devastating shockwave that levels everything in its path. The long-term effects of a nuclear detonation are perhaps even more horrifying. Radiation poisoning would contaminate the environment, rendering vast areas uninhabitable for generations. The radioactive fallout would spread far and wide, carried by wind and water currents. A nuclear winter, triggered by the massive amount of soot and debris ejected into the atmosphere, could plunge the planet into a prolonged period of darkness and cold. This would disrupt agriculture, leading to widespread famine and societal collapse. The very fabric of civilization could unravel in the aftermath of a nuclear war. Section 6. The shadow of proliferation, a looming threat. Despite international efforts to control the spread of nuclear weapons, the threat of proliferation persists. Some nations view nuclear weapons as a deterrent, a way to ensure their security in an uncertain world. Others see them as a symbol of prestige and power. The acquisition of nuclear weapons by rogue states or terrorist organizations is a nightmare scenario that keeps world leaders awake at night. The use of a nuclear weapon by a non-state actor could trigger regional conflicts or even a global war. The international community must remain vigilant in its efforts to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons. This requires strengthening existing treaties, promoting dialogue and diplomacy, and addressing the underlying causes of conflict. Section 7. A call for unity in a divided world, in an increasingly interconnected world. The threat of nuclear war transcends national borders. It is a global issue that demands a global response. We must move beyond the rhetoric of deterrence and embrace a future free from the shadow of nuclear annihilation. This requires a fundamental shift in our thinking. We must recognize that true security lies not in the accumulation of weapons, but in the pursuit of peace, cooperation, and mutual understanding. We must invest in diplomacy, conflict resolution, and the eradication of poverty and injustice. The challenges are immense, but so too is the potential for progress. We have the knowledge, the resources, and the moral imperative to create a safer and more peaceful world for ourselves and for generations to come. The time to act is now. Section 8. Our shared responsibility, a plea for peace. The choice before us is clear, but we can continue down the path of fear, mistrust, and militarization, a path that leads inevitably to destruction. Or we can choose a different future, a future where diplomacy trumps violence, where cooperation replaces competition, and where peace reigns supreme. The responsibility to make this choice rests with each and every one of us. We must demand that our leaders prioritize disarmament and diplomacy over military build-ups and saber-rattling. We must hold them accountable for their actions and their inactions. The future of our planet, the survival of our species, depends on the choices we make today. Let us choose wisely. Let us choose peace.